Hello and welcome to the 102 Dalmatians Puppies to the Rescue Speedrun Guide. I'm Passray, and I'm going to be taking you through a beginner route of the all levels out of bounds category. Since this is a beginner route, I won't be going through any of the more complicated things like enemy clips. In the future, I'm going to be putting up a video of an intermediate route though, and so if you want suggestions for what tricks to add next, make sure to check that out. I'll also be posting a link to the written guide for 102 Dalmatians, and it'll be in the description for this video. And it says written guide, but it also has clips for all the tricks. So if you click on the name of the trick, you should be able to get a video that explains exactly how to do it. You'll notice that I'm running on the Danish version of the game. It is currently the fastest version that we know. It's really most important if you're running 100% or all puppies. I'm currently running on Danish mostly because my PC version of the Dalmatians in English does not work. So if you have another version in another language, that's totally fine. Just run with whatever you've got, and it really doesn't matter. For reference, it saves 0.2 seconds to run in Danish if you're running the all levels category. This route is going to work for both console and PC. There are some slight differences, but I'll go through both routes. Just keep an eye out for if I say that something is console only, it means it won't work if you're running on PC. But I'll explain an alternative. Alright, and with that, let's get started with some movement. So the first really important thing to speedrunning this game is getting the movement down. And the fastest thing is going to be rolling. But you also want to space it out with jumps, because you can't roll forever. If you just keep rolling, the puppy will stop and keep rolling, and then you lose your speed. So what you can do is buffer a jump. While you're rolling, you can press the jump button, and then keep doing that in a rhythm, so that you're always holding the roll button, and then pressing the jump button, releasing it, and pressing it again while you're rolling. And that way, you'll always hit the jumps right when you need them, and you'll also always keep rolling. Alright, so the first level is Regent's Park. And it starts with a cutscene, you can skip that. The timer will start when you gain control of Domino in Regent's Park. So as soon as I skip this cutscene, and right there when it opens up, that's when the timer starts. And the first thing that you can do actually right here, you can do a bit of a trick called a slope boost. And that's where if you jump and roll on a slope, you'll gain a lot of speed and go really far. And you can see that you can see the difference if I were to just roll from, say here, maybe is where I jumped to. You only reach the edge of the hedge. But with a slope boost, you can actually reach all the way to that gazebo, if you do a good one. And you can do it on any slope, even small ones like this. I'll show you on the other side. And so basically, whenever you see a slope, just try to do a slope boost, because it'll optimize your movement. It'll get you practice at slope boosts. That was a pretty nice one. You can also do one here. And it'll just get you places a little bit faster. The next trick is if you come over here, and don't get hit by this guy in the meantime. If you come over here, you can actually jump over this fence right here. So you want to jump and press forward so that you get over the top. And it's pretty lenient about where it is along there, so just give it a try yourself. This is one of the first out of bounds you can start with, because it's pretty straightforward to get. And you can see now I'm kind of floating into the sky. And that's what's going to happen if you press the jump button while you're out of bounds. You're going to float, and if you press the roll button, you're going to start sinking. And you just want to be careful that you don't get too low, because if you get too low, you'll actually spawn back at the beginning. And that's not super useful. And that's true for any level. Now you can just watch these slope boosts again as I get back there. And they're worth trying if you see a slope. They're definitely not worth resetting over at first. And so what you can do here is you can jump here, and you can actually just roll to the end from right here. And you'll notice if you go under a level when you're out of bounds, you'll pop back up into the level. And if you go over a level, you'll start falling. So keep that in mind when you're out of bounds. And then you don't want to save the game. That's asking if I want to save, and it's faster to not. Okay, so this is another cutscene you can skip. You want to skip it a lot faster than that. And Toy Factory is actually pretty straightforward. Or Toy Store, I'm sorry, is actually pretty straightforward. You want to just have clean movement, because there's not out of bounds that are used very often in this. And you're going to be heading to the basement because that's where the exit is. One thing you can try to remember is if you hold the interact button before you get in the elevator, you'll actually activate it as soon as you get in there. And that's true for anything that you can activate. If you hold the interact button before you get there, then you'll make sure that you activate it as soon as you can. And that's Toy Store. Piccadilly is another one where there's not a lot going on in terms of out of bounds. Actually, unlike Toy Store, there's really no useful out of bounds at all in this, not even really hard ones. Because the level is surrounded by walls and it's relatively straight. A relatively straight line. So there's not a lot you can cut off. One thing you can do is jump over this here. If you jump on the top step and jump to the left, you can just jump over the fence and instead of having to go down all the stairs. And then it's just a matter of getting to the end. This is a good place you can practice your jumping and rolling movement. And make sure you don't hit this clown here, because this clown will actually have a cutscene associated with it. That looks like this. That loses a bit of time because it's unskippable. And then you want to exit. Here's another cutscene, and you can skip that. So, Big Ben unfortunately spawns you facing the wrong way. What you can do is you can roll blindly, you can also shift the camera before you start moving. If you're on console, the camera will move with you, which is kind of nice, but just be aware of that. The first thing we're going to do in Big Ben is a little bit of a skip. It skips going around all these gears here. Instead, you want to jump over that fence. So, a good way to set it up is to come along this wall here, and then try to jump to the left. And you want to jump, you don't want to jump like totally diagonal because then it'll be too long of a distance. But what you want to do is jump towards the gate and roll at the top of your jump, because then you'll get enough height to get over that. And if you miss like that, what you can do is just go back here and go up the ramp. So that's what it'll look like. And then you just want to head to the next room. There is an out of bounds you can do with that helicopter there, but that is one of the last tricks you want to add to a run. In the meantime, you want to use the stairs and go across these pendulums. This is a good place where people usually switch dogs because they're sitting here not doing anything. And the reason that we switch dogs in the first place isn't because Oddball, which is the dog I am now, it isn't because Oddball is faster in her movement, but there's one unskippable cutscene that's faster to do as Oddball. And it's only like 2 seconds difference, so it's also not the end of the world if you forget. And then here's the room. The room that causes a lot of problems. So you're going to have to go all the way up to the top of this room and not fall down. And so if you can cut all the corners tight, that's going to save you the most time. But you also run the risk of falling down, which is not good. You also have to jump across here and not fall. So I suggest taking these slow at first. When you're feeling more comfortable with them, there actually is a little bit of a faster way to do it. You see this first one here? You can jump from this one to this one all in one cycle. So that's something to work up to. The problem is if you miss it, you start all the way at the bottom. So definitely don't initially plan on doing that every time. Okay. Oh, Yvonne is floating. The next one you want to go to is this green one in the corner, and then you can jump all the way over to this one. And then leave. This is the last room in Big Ben. And again, there's a little bit of a movement skip you can do right here. Instead of taking this gear across like you're supposed to, you can jump on the axle and jump across. But that's a pretty tight jump because it'll be similar to what you have to do at the beginning with the gate. You want to make sure you have maximum height before you roll so that you can get all the way across. And you're also going to be facing the wrong way when you do it. So it's definitely something to work towards, but don't plan to get it right away. Just something to think about. Then you can continue going across these gears. Hold interact before you get to the elevator. And you also don't have to roll across the gears either if you're falling a lot. Just as long as you get across them, that's the important part. Okay, now we're in Cruella I. And that was a cutscene I skipped. So the first thing you want to do, what you just saw me do there, you go to the left, and then shoot a pineapple at Cruella, and then immediately go back and hit the bell. And what that does is it stuns her. But that also triggers a cutscene the first time you do it. So I skipped the cutscene, and then that's where we are right now. Go to the next catapult to the left, and you want to just do the exact same thing, and you want to do it over and over again. Because now there's no cutscene with it, so it stun locks her in place. And you can just keep shooting her with the pineapple and hitting the bell. And that's that. There's a cutscene in between the Cruella level and the next level, so keep that in mind. You want to make sure you skip it. And then you want to skip the beginning of this Royal Museum cutscene. So Royal Museum is the first of 2 task-based levels, where you have to complete 5 tasks before the exit will spawn. And in this case, we're cleaning up the museum, so we have to go and collect artifacts. And the first one's in the dinosaur exhibit. And it's this coin straight ahead. If you're not getting that jump that I just did at the top, what you can do... If you jump from a distance, you'll probably be fine. But if you're getting stuck along here and you just keep jumping, it won't work. What you have to do is jump and then press forward when you're right against the railing. So don't press forward the whole time or you'll just keep hitting the railing. And then you gotta bring it back to Fluffy. And the next thing is the scarab that's in the museum, or in the Roman room. All the way on the far left side, if you're looking at the whole layout of the rooms. And the scarab's on top of this temple thing. And you can actually get a little slope boost off of here. But there's something important to remember when you're leaving. Because if you see here, these 2 rooms, the exits to this room are stacked on top of each other. And that top loading zone actually extends into the bottom loading zone. So if you're jumping when you exit, you might end up on the top level, which is not a great thing. And so what you can do if that happens is you can go down and around. But ideally, just try to remember not to do that, because it will lose you a little bit of time having to go around. And if you jump beforehand, that's fine. It's really just if you're at the top of your jump when you reach the loading zone. And then you bring it back to Fluffy. And then the next thing is in the medieval room, which is the second from the left. And it's this dinosaur bone. The fourth thing is in the Egyptian room. It's a crown on top of the pyramid. But unless you do an out-of-bounds trick that's a little bit more complicated, you're not going to be able to get to it directly from the Egyptian room. And the trick doesn't really save you much time, especially if you miss it, so I'm not going to be going over that one in this video here. But you can reach it pretty quickly just by going to the dinosaur room, going through the exit on the left, and then now you get to here. Hold the interact button and skip that cutscene. And now the bridge is in place so that you can grab the crown on top here. And then the next part's kind of fun. You can get a really big slope boost off of this and boost right into the exit. Oh, I kind of killed it with that roll. But that's what you want to do, is slide down there so you get really fast. Ooh. Alright. That was weird. The last one is in the food court. We're getting Fluffy a donut. No, it's not an artifact. Fluffy just wants a donut. And so you grab the donut. You have to jump on the back counter and then jump to the front counter. Otherwise you can't reach it. But you bring that back for Fluffy. And now we can leave. And the exit is in the medieval room. There we go. Alright, another cutscene to skip, and now we're in the underground. So the underground starts with a cool kind of slow boost trick that you can do to actually do a boost with the subway. So if you jump on this railing here, you can get enough height to get a pretty decent slow boost. And what you want to do is boost into this train that's ahead. But the problem is that the train's going to leave as soon as we pass a certain point. So you got to go fast. And that's going to look like this. And so once you get hit by the train, you can press right and up to try to end up on here. And you don't want to be careful of the third rail. So it's just worth trying that. Practice it a little bit and see if you can get it. And then it's worth trying because it saves time. And it'll give you practice with that and other slow boosts. Then we get to an out of bounds that's really fundamental for understanding other out of bounds in the game. Because a lot of out of bounds work by getting the puppy stuck between something and a wall. And then using that to get the puppy pushed out of the wall. And so in this case, we're going to use a puppy crate, to get pushed out through the wall. We use this trick in other places to use enemies to get out of bounds. And that's where it gets harder because enemies move and enemies die and enemies hurt you. So if you get this one down, then you'll be ready to start learning some of these other ones that use things like the punching bag toy, or the tractor toy, or the helicopter, or the penguin, or Toastbot. Actually, we use a lot of different ones, and really it's theoretically possible with all of them. It's just a lot harder with some of them. So, to begin with this one, this is definitely one of the first ones you want to try of this kind. And there's a pretty nice visual cue for where you want to jump to get stuck between the crate and the wall. And that is that crack that's right in front of Oddbell right now. You want to jump towards that crack so that the puppy is stuck like that. So there's no sliding at all. It is possible to do it a little bit too far to the left or right, and then your puppy will slide out the side. And then you just want to try again. Once you've got this, you can turn the camera around. And then the trickiest part is turning the puppy around without sliding out. And you want to do this fast, but not too fast. And if you've done it right, then the camera will move out of bounds and you'll see the puppy's butt sliding towards you. And that means it'll work. If you press jump, the puppy will come all the way out of bounds. Sometimes if the camera doesn't do this, it still works, but other times it doesn't. So for you to be completely sure that it'll work, make sure the camera's out of bounds. And that's how you'll probably want to practice it. During a run, it's worth trying if the camera doesn't come out of bounds. Alright, so if you press the jump button, then you're out of bounds. You're floating in the void. You want to be careful here because it's easy to get back inbounds. Right here, you'll see the level pass. You can get back inbounds in these sewers right here. And so you want to be careful to avoid that. Where you do want to head is over to this room that has 3 tiers. And you want to aim for the floor of the top one. So like the out of bounds area underneath it. You can also get in the second one and that one works too. So I'll show both what you would do. But if you get here, this one's easy. You can just roll all the way to the end and keep going. And then you're out. If you get stuck in the second one, it might seem at first like you can't get out. But you still can because the wall on the outside isn't solid. Because you're not supposed to be up here really. So you can jump through this wall here. If you just keep jumping, you'll find the spot that's not actually there. Anyways, once you're through that room, you want to head towards the last room, and that's where the exit is. So that's this room with the pillars. It is a little bit dark in this level, and it's a little dark in the out of bounds. So, sometimes you might have to turn your brightness up and stuff so that you can see these things, but here is the exit. Alright, this is Carnival, and you just have to roll to the end. Try to hug the walls while you can. You don't have to do any of the level. And this would have blown my mind as a kid. Because the end is in the tent right there. You just have to reach it. There's all these cool side things that you can do, but they're not required. Now we're in Sawmill. So skip the cutscene. Okay, so in Sawmill there are some out-of-bounds options. But I would save those for after you're more comfortable with the crate flip in Underground. And our goal, whoops, right now is to get to the other side of this where you see that tank moving. And you can go the way you're supposed to, which is to go all the way around there and jump across the logs. There's also a little bit of a shortcut. Whoops. And these logs are silly and slippery for some reason. There's a bit of a shortcut you can do right here. If you get to the edge of this, whoops, and don't fall off. If you get to the edge of this and do a jump and a roll, you can get onto this log here, even though you're not supposed to. But it's pretty tight timing. And it's also pretty hard not to fall off these. So it's worth knowing about, and it's worth practicing. But it might not be worth in your runs right now. So that's what it would look like. But if you don't get that, and if you don't want to try that, if you miss it, you're basically not going to save any time. So a more consistent thing is to just jump across the logs like you're supposed to. And then you want to make your way through... It's a bit of a maze to get through Sawmill, but you want to make your way to the pyramid that's made of pallets. And then you're going to climb up it. You can grab a one up there for safety. Or you can use it for an extra death warp, up to you. And then what you want to do is go and grab this key. You're going to use it to activate the tractor. No, crane. It's a crane. And you can press directions before you even reach places, and then you can also press the exit button before the log gets down, so that you exit as soon as possible. And that's Sawmill. Alright. Now we're on to Cruella II, and this is a cutscene you can skip. But just to preface, Cruella's movement in this is random, and so some movement is going to help you more than others. The first thing you're going to want to do is try to shoot her with a watermelon as soon as you get control of the dog. So right here, you want to jump to this one and try to hit her before she can move away. I got her there. For the next one, it's possible to hit her with 2 watermelons at once if you get her to stop in a good place. Just like that. And that's the cutscene that's faster with Oddball. And then finally for this last one, there actually is a consistent way to hit. For this last one, what you can do is if you shoot in a 45-degree angle in whatever direction she's going, it will hit her. And it also looks really impressive because it looked like you aimed really well. But really, it's just that this always works. I'm trying to get her going in a good direction so I can show you. So, like, if she starts moving here, and if I don't die, like that. And that's Cruella II. And if you're not getting, you know, the fast strats there, that's totally okay. Just try to hit her with watermelons when you can. And as you get more comfortable with it, you'll be able to try doing things like a double hit and stuff like that. You want to be careful not to just head straight forward, because if you do, you'll trigger a cutscene. It's better if you go a little bit to the side, take a diagonal to these stairs, because if you go too far this way, there's this cutscene here. And it is skippable, but it just wastes a little bit of time. Okay, the next thing you can do is... Oh. Well, you don't want to be knocked off by the bird. The next thing you can do is a slope boost off the side there. So I'd prefer not to get knocked off. Because what you want to do is jump against... Whoops. Like, jump against the cliff and then roll, and you should be able to get a slope boost. It can be a little hard to control, though. So sometimes the boost just doesn't come out. Like that. There we go. Whoops. And then sometimes you hit the wall and lose it anyways. But that's what the slope boost there would look like. You can also do slope boosts on these other slopes that are around, and there's a really big one at the end. Right here. So if you go here, you can see this is a giant slope. And the only thing you want to be careful of is you can't see right now, but there's actually a Baden at the bottom, so just don't hit him on the way to the exit. And now we're at Barnyard, and this is the second task-based level. So in Barnyard, you have 5 tasks to complete for Priscilla. The first one is in the barn, so you can just start heading there. But the reason that we're doing tasks for Priscilla is because the farmer is really lazy and it's her birthday. So hold interact before you get to the faucet and then skip the cutscene. And then you want to leave. And you have to go back to Priscilla for each of these, just like in Museum. And you can hold interact before you get to Priscilla too. So the next task is to fix the windmill. And when you get to the top, you can either roll at it or bark at it. Either of those things will fix it. So it's a little bit faster if you roll past it. It's got a pretty big hitbox, and then that'll fix it, and you'll already be on the ground. And you can go back to Priscilla. And the next thing is to get the hens in the coop. So what we're going to do here is set up a death warp. So what that means, take some damage here. And then head over to the hens. And there is, so you'll see them walking around here. There is a way to do it fast. The problem is if you mess it up a little bit and they start to go other places, it can be really hard to get them into the coop. Basically, all you have to do is bark them in the direction of the coop and they'll go in. But there's some weird times where they don't and where they get stuck and stuff like that. So I'll show you the fast way to do it. Any way that you get them in is good for a run. But this will be the fastest way. If you move this one forward and bark, and then move this one forward and bark, they'll both be on their way in. And you want to make sure you only do that with the first two, because if you do it with the last one and try to get that one in at the same time, it can soft lock. So be careful of that. And then with this last one, so the safest way to do it is just to bark it in, wait for it to go in, and then go over and get hit by the bulldozer. Because that'll do the death warp and you'll be back at Priscilla. What you can do, if you're a little bit more confident, is you can bark it in and then try to get hit by the bulldozer at the same time. The problem with that is if the hen doesn't go in for some reason before you get hit by the bulldozer, you will have to go all the way back over here and do it again. So that's just a warning. You can try that if you want, but I'm not going to show you it because it's not the most beginner-friendly strat. So once the rooster crows, then you're done with that task, and you can get hit by this bulldozer over here. And so then, if you notice there, I pressed the roll button and the interact button at the same time, and that'll bring you over to Priscilla and activate her next task. And the next one is the silo. So to get to the silo, you go over here and take this. We're going to set up another death warp, actually. And so I'd like to take 3 hits there. You can also take them from the other bulldozer that we saw along the way. And, okay, good, it's not attacking me. You can do it out of bounds with this haystack right here. If you jump up and through it, you'll get to the other side. And it isn't out of bounds, so keep that in mind if you're attempting the inbounds category. This is a really small thing, and sometimes you don't remember. It is out of bounds. That's killed some runs before. And the reason it's out of bounds is because it puts you on top of the haystack. And then you just jump down from it. When you get into the silo, you can roll straight towards the camera and press the interact button, and you'll hit this one, and then skip it. And then the next roll is in the down right direction. So if you press that and then roll and hold the interact button, you'll hit it there. And then the next one's just right next door. So it's right to the left. Hit that one. And now the silo is empty. To complete the death warp, what you want to do is head around this haystack, and there's a bulldozer right here. And then again, remember to press roll and interact so that you get to Priscilla. Alright. The last task is to knock down the outhouse. We have 1 extra life right now because of the route we took through Sawmill. Or through Lumber Mill. So what you can do is you can do an extra death warp here. It'll be a little bit faster. You can also hang on to it for safety. If you want to do the death warp, take 3 hits here, just like you did for the hens, before you head into the barn. Because inside the barn, this is where the key is. And you need the key to be able to activate the tractor. Next, you want to go through this door over here. And we're going to do a little bit of an out of bounds here. The way this out of bounds works is if you get stuck on the wall and then move more to the left, you'll go through the wall. Oops. So you'll see I'm getting stuck. And if you can get stuck and just keep holding left, you'll get through it. You can also get stuck and roll to the left and you'll get through it. But the biggest part is getting stuck and then moving through the wall. You can come over here and activate this. You can activate it from a distance. Skip this cutscene. It will be a different amount of time depending on what system you're on, and also if you're on PC, how powerful your PC is. Although it doesn't always correlate with power. We don't really quite understand what makes it longer or shorter. Just know that it can be, and so it's not like something wrong with your computer necessarily. Once you're here, if you took the Death Warp idea, what you want to do is get hit by that army man who's shooting the rockets right there. If you didn't, I'm going to show you what you want to do though, so that you don't get lost. You head over here, and you can go down here and get some slow boosts. And then Priscilla's over here on the left. And then you skip that, and you can just leave. And there is an optional birthday gift that you can give Priscilla, but we don't do that because that's not fast. In Ice Festival, there's a nice out of bounds you can do that gets you right through this wall and into the portal that's on the other side. But it is a little bit more complicated because it uses the penguin, and it's pretty precise. It's within a few frames. So I'm not going to explain that here, but it does save a lot of time if you're looking for tricks to add that save you a lot. That would be one of them. What you want to do here with this route is mostly just use the slopes to your advantage. You can jump up to this puppy box right here without taking the ice, and so that's a little bit faster. Do the slope boost. And then you're gonna head up here. You can skip that cutscene. And there's another cutscene up here with Crystal. There's a little bit of a way to get a speed boost here. If you roll to the left side so that you end up falling, you do go faster. But it can be a little bit tricky to get. So you saw that Oddball was falling for a second. It didn't give me much of a speed boost in this case, but it can give you a lot of speed. You don't have to hit any of the slaloms to get through there. You will hit another cutscene trigger up here, and that's for, there's a bat in fishing right there. So what you want to do is avoid triggering the actual event there. And so you want to go to the right so that you don't do that. And you don't have to jump on any of these pieces of ice, because you can jump over this end right here. It's the second panel from the right, if you look at this repeating pattern. Aim for the second one from the right, and if you just hold forward and jump, you can get over it. And then you just have to get to the end. So for Ancient Castle, there's two different routes depending on whether you're on console or PC. So if you're on PlayStation or Dreamcast, this current route that I'm doing is going to be for you. I did switch to a Dreamcast for this because I was on PC before. So you want to, activate the switch and skip that cutscene. And then head down the fountain. And then head over to this lever over here. And instead of using the lever, what you're going to do is jump at the wall here, and you'll just jump right through. And unfortunately that doesn't work on PC. But once you're through, you can aim yourself at that little turn in the green part there. And if you go this way, eventually you'll find the upper level. And unfortunately, if you're on PlayStation, it doesn't show you as much distance when you're out of bounds. But if you just keep heading in that direction, eventually you'll see the same thing. And then you can just leave through the portal. Okay, so now this is the route if you're on PC. You can also do it on Dreamcast and PlayStation, and it'll work. But you might as well use the faster route if you're on those ones. And so it starts off the same. Activate the button, go down the fountain. Instead of going onto the lever, you want to go up these stairs here. And the fastest out of bounds in this level is a little bit inconsistent. The fastest out of bounds on PC, I should say. It's a little bit inconsistent, so I'm going to show you a more consistent one. That will also prepare you for doing the faster one. And you want to jump up on the table and up to here. And then jump across these. it's pretty... It can be intimidating to do it, and if you start to roll and stuff while you're on the chandeliers, you might fall off. But if you get a good rhythm going, it's actually not so hard to jump across these. Because they swing with you, and it works pretty nicely. Okay. So once you're on the other side... Ooh, it went the wrong way. That was funny. Okay. So once you're on the other side, you want to go into this corner, have the puppy parallel to that wall on the right side, then you want to start jumping while moving into the corner. And you'll see the puppy's actually going into the wall there. And if the puppy's already going into the wall, you don't have to do anything. But if the puppy's not going into the wall, you want to start tapping your camera button to move the camera. So to give you a look at what it looks like when you're moving the camera as well, if you're jumping like this and the puppy's not moving into the wall, what you can do is tap the camera a little bit using the right camera button so that you get a view where the puppy starts moving into the wall. And then if you get into the wall, it'll pop you up here. And now you're on the upper level and you're closer to the exit. And the cool thing about getting to this part out of bounds is that it also doesn't load the wind. Normally there'd be wind pushing you back, but you can just roll to the exit without worrying about the wind. And there you go. So you can skip this cutscene here. So the first thing you want to do is shoot a pumpkin right at that first block there. Move all the way to the left and shoot this one over here. And then you want to stop in the middle, actually, and wait for Cruella to shoot one at you, because this is going to be a manipulation so that we get her where we want her. And then you shoot that one out. Shoot this one out here. If you get hit, just be careful that you don't die. And then your last one's going to be this one over here. And at this point, Cruella should run over here. And we want her over here because you can actually shoot her through this wall right here. You're not supposed to be able to, but her hitbox extends through the wall a little bit. And so you can just keep holding the shoot button and it'll keep shooting at her at the end there. And that's that. So that's a manipulation of her movements there. There's a more complicated manipulation that's pretty much the same thing, but it does a little bit differently to get her there even faster. And so when you're comfortable with this one, I would definitely say take a look at the full manipulation, because at that point then she'll already be over there on the left when you shoot out the last block. Skip the cutscene between load screens. And then now we're in Spooky Forest. So you want to jump into this tree here. Head through this first exit on the left. And then we're going to head to the end. Just head to the end. It's a bit of a maze. This isn't even the maze level, but it's a bit of a maze if you don't know where you're going. Luckily, it's a pretty straightforward route through it for the all levels category. And now we are in the maze. But again, luckily we're in the all levels category, so it's not so bad. So you head left until you get to this switch and then you activate it. Go through the giant tumbleweed. It's okay if you take damage. And then you want to keep going until you hit this where it's kind of like a T, and then you go right. And then again, you'll hit another place where it's a T, and you go right again. Don't activate this switch, because if you just keep going straight past it, you'll reach the puzzle, and that means that you've reached almost the end. So you have to solve the puzzle. It is random where the tiles go. Whoops, and I messed that one up. It's random where the tiles go, so you can get better RNG and worse RNG. But you just want to do it as fast as you can. And you can move after that last one's put in place to get a little bit closer to the door. And then, to leave, you just go up this ramp here. And now we're into Vil Manor. And so, what we're going to do, rather than doing an out of bounds right there with the toast bot, If you head up here... Whoops. And don't hit the wall. You want to go all the way upstairs to the end of the hallway. Then once you're here, you can jump on the bed and jump into the air vent, which goes straight to the boiler room for some reason. And if you just keep rolling on there, you just keep rolling and then jump at the very end, you'll be able to get all the way on top of the boiler, which is really cool. And then here, you can do a little bit of a slow boost and exit. Oops. Alright. Now we're in the last real level before we fight Cruella one more time. So, this one's got some tricky platforming, for sure. The first part is right here, where you want to jump from there to here. Because it skips you having to go all the way up and around there. So, it's kind of like the Big Ben one, where you jump over the gate. And once you're on the other side, you can roll up here. Jump across this to get up here. And if you fall down there, there's actually a moving platform you can use. But once you get here, you can just roll across here. You can try to avoid getting hit by jumping on top of those sometimes too. Now we get to some movement tech. So actually if you... Oh, don't die here. If you rub against these before they start to move, like this, and jump, you can get a boost like that. And so you can use that boost to move faster here. And if you get the boost, it also lines up with the cycle so you can get the next boost over here. There's another set right here that you can use. And so you jump against them, then it'll shoot you really fast over to here. To jump across these crates, you can do this, and then it skips having to use the stairs on them a lot. For these ones, it's hard to get a boost. It's also possible to get hit, so I recommend jumping through them, because you're less likely to get hit that way, I've found. And next you want to get on this crate, and be really careful. This area is weird. You can, if you roll and try to get on the crate, you might actually end up in the crate, which is bad and will hurt you. And for some reason, there's also something weird with these penguins that you see. Oh, well now you don't see them. They disappeared. There's penguins around here. And they're on the level below, but I think sometimes they hit you. If it's not the penguins, I don't know what else it is. Just be careful here because you can get hit from nothing. And so if you're low on health, that could be a problem. But what you want to do is jump onto this smaller crate and get up to the next level. And here's another spot where you have to be really careful, because here it's possible to soft lock. If you go through here on the left side or on the left middle, you can actually just fall through the floor, and it's not a good out of bounds. It's not an out of bounds that helps us. It gets you stuck in this weird falling state where you can't get to any part of the level. And so eventually you'll just spawn back at the beginning, except none of the parts will be moving because you aren't supposed to be there anymore. So at that point, you have to exit and re-enter the level, and that's just not fun. So when you're doing this part, make sure you go along the right side as close to them as possible, because they can also push you, and they can also boost you like that, which works in your favor, actually. Once you get to the next room, it's this magnet room. If you roll right away, I think you can get a good cycle with the magnet, so you're not constantly hitting them. And then we're in the final stretch. So if you hold the jump button, you can actually ride that airstream all the way onto the first gear if you jump and move forward onto it. And once you're there, you head over here to flip this switch. And that moves that gear into place. There's also two more switches. One right there is visible, and then the other one's way over there. If you're not getting these jumps, you can definitely just activate those switches to get across here. If you'd like to attempt the jumps, though, they are a bit tight. This first one's not so much. This first one's a little bit easier. This next one is a pretty close jump, but it is possible to make it from here to there. And so what you want to do is you have to be on the very edge of this gear, and then treat it like you treat any of the other tight jumps we've done. You want to jump and then roll at the height of your jump. And so if you're coming at it running, it can be hard to get at the end. What you can do to practice it, though, is ride this gear around until you're right facing it, and then roll, or jump and then roll. And that's a way to practice. So to show that again, this one's not so bad, but it is possible to miss it. And then if you ride this around, it gives you time to line up this last jump. Because if you miss it, you do have to go all the way back there. Just like that. So that miss means you have to go all the way back and do it again. And it can be hard to do quick because you have to get it going the right way. But that's what it would look like. And that's the point you want to get to. But it's definitely one of the hardest parts. It's one of the hardest jumps, aside from the lumber mill one. So you can skip this cutscene. And now we're in the last Cruella fight. Oh, and I don't want to get hit by this. I'm gonna die. If you head right or left, that's left. If you head left, you'll activate one of these zap machines. They're like laser guns. And so you want to shoot the laser gun, and for the first stage, you want to hit all those boxes. So to do that, first you want to keep the shield up. Next, you want to hit them over on the left side. If you aim to the left, you can actually hit all of them in one cycle. They'll just keep accelerating into your laser. And then you want to move left again so that you get another of the zap guns. And then you can hit these giant robot heads. And you want to keep the shield up because if you don't, if anything hits you, you'll get knocked out of the gun and you'll have to wait for another one. It is possible to get 4 of those on one cycle if you have good RNG. But if you don't worry about it. You can do 3 and 3, and that's good. That'll also get you the same cycle for the last part. And if you don't get the same cycle for the last part, you just might have to improvise, because things won't be in the places that you expect. The last part is this cycle of floating electric balls, and what you want to wait for is the first 2 of them to appear, and once that happens, you can shoot them, and then you want to start aiming down here and shoot. And if I had already been aiming down there, if I hadn't messed around with that other one, it wouldn't have been a problem. If you aim down and to the right and start shooting there before it appears, you'll shoot it as soon as it does appear. And if you can't do that, then you just have to wait for it to show up somewhere else. And that's that. That's the end of the beginner round. I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them in the 102 Dalmatians Speedrun Discord. That's linked on the speedrun.com page. You can also, again, go to the written guide for more explanations of any of the tricks, and if you're interested in adding more out-of-bounds tricks to your run, check out the intermediate guide that I should be posting soon. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your runs!